If you've ever hidden something that's sexually oriented from your spouse, like you have a dirty magazine, I guess that's 25 years ago, right? I don't know if they still do magazines, but let's say 25 years, let's say your dad, right? No, if you're clearing the cookies on your browser because you don't want your wife to see something that you just went on, even if you're just messaging somebody on the computer, if you smoke pot but you don't tell your spouse about it, oh, but it's legal in California, right? If you've ever kind of been shady about the volume of alcohol, how many beers do you have today? Oh, I drank 3 beers. Well, really, you drank 5, but you pounded 2 of them real quick, or you topped off your cup. You're starting to go on that gray line of isolation.
By the age of 4, 90% of children have learned the concept of lying. Based on studies performed in the past, it is estimated that 60% of adults cannot have a 10-minute conversation without lying at least once. Within those 10 minutes, an average of 3 lies were told.
You know what we're about to do? We're about to get real. We're about to have conversations that Christians have behind closed doors, the scary, raw ones, the ones that make you feel uncomfortable. That's where we're going. Why? Because we're family. Ustedes son mi familia.
So this is the Brian and Janelle podcast. She's Janelle and I'm Brian. And if you don't want to miss anything, all you got to do is just hit subscribe and get that notification whenever we drop a new episode. This is the Brian and Janelle podcast. Now I'm so grateful to have back on the show a fan favorite, as they say, Roy, who's a facilitator with Galvanized. It's a men's recovery ministry at Grace Church. Thanks for coming back on the show, brother.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
So I love it when you come out and talk about this. And honestly, we've had a number of people be like, please bring Roy back soon. Please bring Roy back soon.
I pay them.
Aww.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, no, but I mean, addiction of various types, and you've helped us clearly understand it's not just the heroin epidemic and opioid epidemic in Northeast Ohio that we're talking about here. We're talking about
huge, but yeah.
Yeah, it's huge, but we're talking about many Christians in a variety of ways struggle with addiction, whether it's pornography, alcohol, whatever the addiction might be.
Yeah.
So we need this kind of thing. And today you want to talk about how relationships matter when it comes to recovery. Why is that an important issue to you?
Addiction, it's tricky. It's generally not a black and white issue. It generally fades. You know what I mean? And so if we look at addiction, it generally starts off kind of fun, like we'll say drugs, alcohol, but even pornography is at some level social. And you might think that's weird, but there's like the young college guys that are going to the strip club or the guys that are drinking beer together, right? But it quickly begins to isolate. It really does. So so for a traditional listener that maybe doesn't think they have a problem, here's the question. If you're listening here and you can hear me say this, if you've ever hidden something that's sexually oriented from your spouse, like you have a dirty magazine, I guess that's 25 years ago, right? I don't know if they still do magazines, but let's say 25 years, let's say your dad, right? No, if you're hiding something, if you're clearing the cookies on your browser because you don't want your wife to see something that you just went on, even if you're just messaging somebody on the computer, you're starting to go into isolation. If you smoke pot but you don't tell your spouse about it, oh, but it's legal in California, right? If you've ever changed, here's one for you. If you've ever kind of been, slighted or shady about the volume of alcohol. So, for example, it's how many beers do you have today? Oh, I drank 3 beers. Well, really, you drank 5, but you pounded 2 of them real quick, or you topped off your cup just because you don't want you're starting to go on that gray line of isolation, right? Mm-hmm. And so the reason I bring this up, I'm stealing a sermon from Scott Lessing. So you guys know Pastor Scott. He was on there with you, right? So so the Grace Church people are going to be like, that's not what the sermon was about, because he disciples me, and I said, dude, I'm going to steal some of your sermon for Moody Radio next time. But he brings a kayak up on stage. There's a kayak on one side and a river raft. So Brian, how many people can go in a kayak?
Well, depending on the kayak, Roy.
Traditional little kayak.
Okay, one.
There you go. Janelle, a river raft, right? See, I had to get them in line, Janelle.
Yes,
got them all fired up this morning, right?
Yes.
Ideally, Brian, one. Are we? Just giving you a hard time. All right, but then, Janelle, on the river raft, how many people, whitewater rafting, how many people go in that raft with you?
As many as you can get in there, Roy, as many as you want.
Exactly.
Reach for the ideal. Fill it with people.
Whatever.
All of them. Right? All right, so Genesis 2:8, right? So it says that God, he didn't make us to be alone. Right? He makes Adam, and then he gives him a suitable helper, Eve, and then so we're like made to be in community, right? So if we're looking at life like a river, this is the parallel I like to paint for you guys, just so you can kind of picture this recovery life. You're going through life, right? You're going down a river. You go down a river. Some of it's like real scenic. It's beautiful. Like, man, I wish I could show somebody that awesome picture. This beautiful sky, a sunset. There's some parts that are really, really fast, but relatively smooth. They're just really moving fast. There's slow points. There's crazy rapids, right? There's all. I believe recovery and life in general is like that too. There's some times in life where you're working so hard. Janelle, you got 14 kids. You're doing homework and this and that, and you're running. It's like if everything hits and everything clicks, everything's on time. You make all your appointments. Everybody's in the car. Nobody forgot their shoes. Right. You didn't get to get there and go, oh my gosh, this person doesn't have their bag. If everything clicks, it's smooth, but it's high pace. Right. And sometimes recovery life can be like that too. Meetings every day, calling people this and that. But the thing is, what vehicle are you in that life? Because you're going to pass, I believe, you're going to pass through all these different types of environments. You're going to have that day where there's a little turbulence in the water, right? You're going to have the day where you're feeling just down, right? Where you're feeling alone, where you're feeling defeated, right? There's going to be that day when you break your leg, and they're going to say, hey, here's 50 Percocet. Well, I'm an opiate addict. 50 Percocet's going to send me out and over the top again. So what do you do? Who do you talk to? Well, I'm in a kayak, right? I'm paddling down the river. I ask myself, and I think of my own best judgment, and I come up with a good answer, and I take the Percocets, and then I'm off and running again, right? But when I'm in the river raft, I have other people there to help me out.
Amen.
So who we tether ourselves to is really important. You guys know that verse about the log and the speck? You know what I'm talking about?
Right, yes.
Yes.
I love this one because in recovery, this is so big. So it's like my log versus their speck is the way I think about it, right? But the log and the speck thing, it's like I believe truly that emotion is what blurs my vision. I really do. Because okay, remember the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Oh, yeah.
You guys remember this? All right,
Regis.
Regis. And then they switched it over. It kept moving. But there was an episode where this woman is on there. She's on the second question. These are like, which one is the elephant? Circle it, and there's like a picture of an elephant and 3 pictures. These are like the easy ones. They're giving away $1,000. It's TV. Come on. The lady's on like the second question, and the question is supposed to be funny, and it says, what's the minimum number of 6-packs you'd need to buy to put 99 bottles of beer on the wall? This is basically 99 divided by 6, right? You should be able to, and they're not really even constraining their time. Then it's multiple choice. They gave them the answers. 2 of them were crazy, like 501. And the other one was 17 or 9. This woman could not figure it out.
Oh, no.
She spent like 3 minutes, 4 minutes giggling, pointing around till she did some math in her head and said, it's got to be 19. And they were like, wow. Like everybody was like, wow. How could people at home are probably screaming at their TV, Mm-hmm. But see, she couldn't see the speck or the log even because The emotion was blinding. And that's what happens to us when we get in recovery. We start to say, oh, but I'm in love with her. No, you're not. Oh, but I think I should go rescue this person. No, you're not. Hey, you know what? It's just a champagne toast at my daughter's wedding. No, it's not. It's just a friend on the internet that this lady is just showing me attention, and I don't get the attention at home. No, it's not. See, the emotion gets, and that comes into the river raft. Who's in your river raft with you? If you're rolling with people like Brian and Janelle that are sitting there in your river raft, I can start to say, man, I know I can ask Janelle. She'll be able to figure this one out. I say, Janelle, come on, real quick, 99 divided by 6. Is it 17 or 19? And she's going to be like, well, with Case Western Reserve, we had TI 81s, and we would just come on, tell me the answer. Right? She'd just say, oh, no, it's 17. Oh, thanks. No, it ain't 19. What's wrong with you, bonehead? So it's really important who we get in the river raft with. But that goes back to your other question now, doesn't it, Brian? About being afraid.
Yeah, and this is one of the questions I have, because so often when we're put at a crossroads in life to make a tough choice, we feel like we are alone and we will forever be alone. Do you think addicts struggle with thinking, oh, if I stop drinking, who will I be friends with now? Because all my friends drink.
I remember when I say, oh, if I stop getting high, one of my degrees is in art, I like painting and doing things creative. And I remember saying, oh, yeah, when I remember when I stopped getting high, and I was like, yep, I guess there it goes.
Yep, no more art for me.
Yep, no more art for me. You can't draw pictures if you're not getting high. You can't be creative, And I quickly realized, boy, was I wrong. People think, how am I ever going to be social without that liquid courage? How am I going to meet ladies in the bar without drinking beer to first feel comfortable? How am I going to? All that stuff takes care of itself. The whole thing with recovery, it's not about quitting the addiction. It really isn't. It's about eliminating the separation from Christ. And when you do that, the addiction goes away on its own, all of them. That's the cool part about it. But, Brian, you said about fear, you said, but how do you choose the community, right?
Yeah, how do you choose community over the addiction, I suppose? Right.
And so what I found is this. My old neighbor, Brian, different Brian.
Sounds like a great guy, though, nonetheless.
Real solid dude. Right. And my old neighbor, Brian, I could walk over to Brian's house at any time and say, hey, man, can I borrow your leaf blower? Or he'd come and borrow, because we had this camaraderie. We had built a friendship when we got the mail after work. Hey, how's it going? But when we moved into our new neighborhood, we had only been there for like a couple of weeks, and my wife was cooking something. We didn't have much in the house, and she needed an egg. And I drove all the way up to the gas station and paid way too much for a dozen eggs because I was too embarrassed to go knock on a stranger's door and ask him for an egg. And that's the same thing that happens in recovery. You cannot wait until you have a life-pressing incident that you need help making a good decision on to say, boy, I really need to be discipled by somebody. I think I'm going to call this guy out of the blue and throw all my garbage out on the street, a guy that I really don't have a relationship with, I could call Pastor Scott Lessing at 10:30 at night and interrupt his family time or whatever and say, man, I got this problem. I am super struggling with this thing right here. And him and I know each other, and we share, and he's going to walk me through it right then. Or at 6 o'clock in the morning, because we've built that camaraderie over breakfast or, talking and worked our way through,
But how do you describe to the addict the freedom that comes with admitting you're addicted? I mean, it's got to feel super freeing, right?
Some people, it depends, though. If you look at it as a weakness, most people look at this as a weakness, particularly men. And I know, Janelle, I keep going back to the men analogies, but, guys can fix anything, right?
Right. All of them, right.
All of them. You hear that, Brian?
Especially me, yeah.
There was a totality. That was back to the previous conversation.
Yeah.
Right? No, but, you have the classic TV show about the guy that won't stop for directions and ask for help, and the woman's telling him, just stop and ask, right? We think we can do it. There's something in our genetics or something, I don't know, that makes us think that we just need to have the answer. We're the fixer when our wife just wants us to listen to them, and we're trying to fix their problem, and they say they end up crying, if you just listen, And if we can wrap our heads around this community idea, see, the thing is, your best thinking got you where you're at. Okay? Right. I tell these guys to show up. Your best thinking got you spending your Friday night with me and 40 other goofballs at Grace Church when you could be somewhere else. Your best thinking made you think, man, I know I'm an addict, but I got a broken leg. And they're Vicodins. The guy, it says as prescribed, and they're prescribed to me. It says 2 to 3. Well, that means you're going to take 3, right? And all these different things. There's this new kid that showed up last week, Brian. I got to tell you guys. And he walked in and he said, I listen to Brian and Janelle. I've been Moody Radio all day long, every day for years. And I've been walking a recovery process from pornography by myself. And my wife has been kind of like asking me who's my community, and I have no one. I've never shared really this stuff with anybody. And he showed up, and I said, what brings you by? He said, I've been wanting to come here for years, but I've been embarrassed and I've been afraid. Huh. So you guys are reaching people that you don't know. They're walking in to Galvanize. 2 to 3 every week are showing up saying, I'm embarrassed. I don't want to be here. I don't even know why I'm here. They're coming in. You could see it on their face. It's the fear of death. They come walking in the room, and they take 2 steps in and kind of look around, and we make sure we greet you and come on in, relax. You're not that weird. Well, you're kind of weird, but you're not that any more weird. You're not any more weird than anybody else in the room,
right?
And that's where the community starts. That's when you go from I'm paddling my kayak to I'm in a river raft.
Yeah, and to me, there's this attractiveness as a follower of Christ to the group of guys who collectively says, we're a mess and we need Christ. And I even heard my pastor once in a sermon talk about how he went to an AA meeting. He's not an alcoholic, but he went with somebody once, and it was just, he says, I want to be there because these guys know they're sinners. And this is what church should feel like. And so not only should you not be embarrassed, but you're doing something spiritually good and true when you admit that you need Christ and you need others in community.
Yeah, it's huge.
And so you're right. This is one of the goals of us doing this, is not just to have a great conversation because we love you, Roy. It's because somebody's too embarrassed to get help, and you can't do recovery alone. You've said that for so many years on this show.
You can't.
So how can somebody get help on this Friday recovering from their addiction? Awesome.
This Friday, it's so simple. All you have to do, if you're a man and you're looking for the start. Now, if you're a female and you'd like to get some start, we also have great stuff at Grace Church, and there's plenty of stuff in the church around here, but we got Keys to Recovery on Tuesday at our church, which is a little bit similar, and it involves women in separate groups, like the men and the women separate and do this, so there's stuff there. But if you're a man and this Friday, and you're like, you know what, I'm finally going to do it. I'm going to do what that guy said last week or 2 weeks. I'm going to just at least take a look. There's like zero join. It's not like you got to put in a membership. There's no cost. You walk in and you say, hello. That's it.
Oh, that's cool.
You come and sit down at a table. They're going to say, hey, there's a new guy here. They're going to hand you a bag that's got all kinds of information in it, phone numbers in it of our community, books. They're going to give you this stuff and say, hey, man, there's coffee over there. A lot of times we eat. We have tons of food that we provide. Hey, there's coffee. There's donuts. There's, we're having burritos tonight or whatever. Have some food and hang out. Ask me if you have any questions. Or here's what's going to happen. They're going to open with a few words. They're going to do some housekeeping type of stuff. Guy's going to come up and teach a message. They're going to close with prayer. It's going to be an hour and 20, hour and 30 minutes, and you're going to be out of here. If you're scared, sit here, shut your mouth, and don't worry about it. Nobody's going to bite you. You know what I mean?
That's right. And so please check it out. And
just show up.
How can folks find out more?
Galvanize at gracecma.org. You can email us. You can call. We have a number out there. If you Google Galvanized at Grace Church, there's a phone number that indexes to the men on my operating committee. You can check it out at Grace Church's website, Brian and Janelle. Or just show up, man. 7:30 at Grace Church in Middleburg Heights on Pearl Road on Friday night, 7:30 we meet. And, we love to reach that one guy. It's the 99 that are hanging out, and when that one walks in, that's the guy,
That's right.
We got a lot of guys like Sean, dedicated now, that are just showing up, Big Kurt, that just showing up, that they're ready to reach out and help you guys. That's what they want to do because they feel so grateful. They want to give back. These guys are sitting there waiting to meet you guys coming in,
Thanks.
And the ladies also don't, there's stuff for you too. I don't want to make this sound like this is only a men's problem,
Yeah, no,
it's a women's struggle.
The message overall is get help, and you have one of those vehicles available. If not, just talk to your pastor. If you don't even live near there, your pastor will help you.
That's right.
Roy from Galvanized, we love hanging out with you, brother. We got to run. Can't wait till next time, my friend.
Thank you guys so much, and have a blessed day. Stop fighting with each other.
And I'm right. Say it.
And,
right.
And Janelle's right.
Yeah, Roy.
See, Brian, it's better to be happy than to be right.
Oh.
Just tell her she's right. Everything's cool,
There
right?
you go, Roy. You're so smart, Roy.
but-
Keep her on the other side of the table. Keep the microphone boom between you guys.
Hey, hold up. Where are you going? You know you like your time with us. You want more. So look down, hit that button right there, subscribe, and you'll get updated episodes, and then you can hang some more.
And guess what? You can help us. How? A 5-star rating. Not 4, 3, 2, 1. No, 5.
You can also hang with us live, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. Interact with us, talk with us. Download the Moody Radio app.
Or at brianandjanelle.org.
And we don't put all this together all by ourselves. There's some great people behind all this production. We want to thank Ron Eastwood, Kelly Ryder, Paul Carter, Doug Hayner, and our awesome and fearless leader, Josue Villa.
And finally, this podcast is a production of Moody Radio in Cleveland, the ministry of Moody Bible Institute.
Well, Brian, that's a wrap.
Yep.